Good morning, all. Thank you for joining us. We're delighted to have you with us this morning for the first in our series of conversations with our gubernatorial candidates here for the 2026 California governor's election. We're going to let a few folks jump on, give a brief introduction, and then we'll welcome Sheriff Chad Bianco to the screen, and we'll have a conversation over these next 30 minutes just about all things electoral that have to do with our nonprofit sector. So we'll talk a little bit about why we're doing this. I'll give people just a moment to jump on and join us, and welcome everybody who's made the time this morning. This will be recorded and will be shared out, so we're very happy to have those of you with us in person. But for anyone that misses it, or if you'd like to share this conversation with associates, friends, colleagues, neighbors, you'll be able to do that after the fact. So to begin, I'll just say welcome. My name is Geoff Green. I serve as the CEO of the California Association of Nonprofits. Most of you on this call probably know something about what we do, but for the sake of those who may not, let me just share a bit about what we do, why we're doing this today, and then we'll jump into our conversation. So CalNonprofits is the association representing the broad swath of California's nonprofit sector, some 110,000 strong 501c3 nonprofit organizations. We really do three things. We work on policy and advocacy, and of course this conversation is part of that. We engage primarily at the state level, but also national and local at times to help get nonprofits really into those conversations that are so key to policymaking that have to do with the many, many different missions that we serve across the nonprofit sector. Secondly, education, and we do a lot of sharing just of the latest knowledge as well as good practices and what's happening across the sector. And then finally, research and data. When we see good research that is out there having to do with our sector, we certainly share that. And then when we don't, we do our own research with professional research teams, like the work we're doing now with Causes Count. So that's what we're here to do. When it comes to this conversation, what we want to do is really a couple of things. First, we want to be very clear with everyone. Many nonprofit organizations, nonprofit leaders are unclear on what that line is with respect to political work, and I want to be very clear at the outset here. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. We are a public charity, meaning we do not and cannot engage in partisan politics. We don't endorse candidates, we don't oppose candidates, we don't fundraise for candidates. And that's really the hard line that all nonprofit 501c3 organizations have to observe and respect. That said, when it comes to policy and conversations about what an organization or a particular candidate favors, what a policy might look like, that is something we absolutely can do, and we argue we all should be at that table to talk about the policies that affect our community, since we are always serving our communities across the state of California and beyond. And so that's what this is about today, is we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to hear from and talk to our candidates for governor in 2026 and get a sense of what it means were they to be elected and serve in the governor's seat, and how that would affect their relationship with, their understanding of, and the state's work alongside the nonprofit sector across California. So that's what we're here to do. And to begin, I want to welcome Sheriff Chad Bianco. He's a Republican candidate for the governorship, and he is running right now in 2026. Sheriff Bianco, welcome.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here with y'all.
Thank you for taking our invitation. We did invite every candidate. The way we did it is anyone polling 5% or above since late last year. We invited them all to join us. Some have accepted. Some we're not sure yet. But we're very happy that you took our invitation. So thank you for joining us. What I'd love to do is start off by just giving you an opportunity to tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, why you're running for the governorship, and then we'll very quickly dive into the wonky world of nonprofit policy. But before that, we'd like to start at the high level.
Well, sure. I'm a dad, a husband, and a grandpa, and I go to work every day being the sheriff of Riverside County. Riverside County Sheriff's Office is the second largest in the state, the fourth largest in the country. I'm a massive operation, 4,400 employees. I won't go into all of the details, but my budget is $1.3 billion a year. I finished in the black for the last 7. I will finish in the black again, this one ending in June. I don't believe that government should be spending more money than it has. And I think that mentality is going to be a complete culture shock when I hit Sacramento. For the last 8 years, 7.5 years, I truly have been battling Sacramento because my ability to protect Riverside County residents is severely hampered by bad policy in Sacramento, bad laws. It's a strange, twisted love affair that they have with criminals over law-abiding citizens and especially victims. Victims are completely disregarded in Sacramento in favor of what they believe are victims of society, and that's why people commit crimes. It's crazy where we've come. But in the last 8 years, while I've been fighting Sacramento, I realized that I was meeting the same people in those offices, in those hallways, that were from every different group and aspect of California, and everyone has the same common enemy, and it's absolute horrible policy. And so as I watched every single person that signed up to be the next governor and the people that were starting to rumor that they were going to do it, I realized that nothing was going to change in California, and it could possibly get worse if someone else didn't step up to the plate to actually do something for California instead of a political ideology or a political party or their own personal benefits. And there is no one on that ballot other than myself that is doing that. And to be very, very blunt and honest, we only elect celebrities, millionaires, billionaires, career politicians in California. It has been many, many decades that anybody sat down and said, you know what? I wonder what type of character that person has. I wonder what their integrity, honesty, opinion of transparency, and whether or not they're even capable of being a leader is. And that's what's missing. And I think that's what California is starving for. And to be very, very honest, that's why I've been at the top of the polls since last May. And we're very confident going into this election, particularly getting to November, when it really becomes about policy and failed policy and just a direction of California that has been going wrong for. We have to be. This is the issue that I have that really frustrates me when especially on a debate stage, is my entire life, my entire adult life is strictly revolved around truth. It is about truth and lies. And I know that sounds brutal to people, and people get mad at me for using the 4-letter word of liar or lies or things like that. But we have to start calling it what it is. And we've been lying to the government, and the media has been lying to Californians for a long, long time. California has been under the control of the Democrat Party since 1956. 1956, they took over the Assembly, 1958, the Senate, and they've had a supermajority for the last 17 years. We have to stop saying that it's Republicans' fault. Republicans are not at fault for anything in California. Democrats are at fault for everything. And what I really would like is for them on these debate stages, for them to point to something that has actually worked in California that they can say, look what a great success we are, but they don't have that. So that's what I'm looking forward to from June to November, is that true government policy argument of the direction that we're going, because we're failing Californians in the name of special interests and political parties. And it's time it's time we make a direction course change.
Well, let's use that as a jumping off point then for this policy conversation. You heard in my introduction there that we, in the nonprofit world, obviously we're not partisan actors, but we are a massive part of the state, 110,000 organizations, charities of all sizes and shapes. When it comes to policy, we're looking at it through the lens of the work we may do every day. And I'm curious, you've got more than 30 years in public service, including whatever other relationships you may have in your personal life. What is your connection to the nonprofit sector? Are there examples of nonprofits you've either worked with in professional service or personal that you can share, just that shapes your understanding of what a nonprofit is and what a nonprofit does?
Absolutely. I 100% believe in nonprofits. I think that nonprofits, unfortunately, in my line of work, I'm very cynical. And then in my professional work, I give probably close to $500,000 a year to nonprofits through asset forfeiture money that we give away. And it was we every single year we have to do a lot of due diligence, and we eliminate the the majority of the applications that come to us, because our investigators going out to investigate these nonprofits that they're applying for our money, they're not real. They're shell companies, they're vacant residents, they're post office boxes, we just have to realize that all of them are not good. But with that said, I'm a firm believer in nonprofits. I donate a lot of money every year, of my own personal money, to nonprofits. I enjoy the tax write-off. I believe that that's a way where I can lower my taxable income, because I don't believe the state is spending my money wisely. And I like to control where I'm giving my money. So because the entities or the organizations that I'm giving that money to. So Denise and I give a ton of money a year. ton of money a year because I know of the tax benefits. And but we also do our very good due diligence to make sure that we're giving to organizations that actually help people instead of helping their administrative levels or, their salaries and benefits and those types of things. We want to make sure that people are actually getting helped. That's where we want to give our money.
So in the state of California, as you're aware, you've mentioned some of the ways that you've funded through the department, assets that have been seized or forfeited. The state of California has billions of dollars in agreements and contracts and grants where the nonprofit sector is asked to either extend the reach of public sector or to do something maybe that can't be done strictly through government. What are some ways that you would look at that partnership, those relationships between nonprofits and the state, and want to see some improvements? What would you change given your understanding of what those look like today?
Yeah, well, the key word there is improvements. There has to be unbelievable improvements because what we are learning, if you pay any attention to the news or social media, the absolute fraud in nonprofits is through the roof. And the government giving taxpayer money to nonprofits and NGOs is ripe for waste, fraud, and abuse because the government does not manage where that money's going. It doesn't care after the fact of it. Okay, it's great that we gave it to the nonprofit, but what did they do after? And government does nothing to make sure that that money that they are giving, taxpayer money, is given, that it's actually helping the people that it's supposed to give or supposed to be helping. And the homeless is the perfect example. There is extremely limited money going to nonprofits that actually makes its way to the people that are living and dying on the streets. They are being enabled to be on the streets. We know firsthand that, for instance, that there are people being brought into nonprofits, and when they are used up, they are kicked out the door, other people brought in, and it's a revolving door of victimization, really, of the people that are there. So I don't want to say that. Certainly, we have to realize that not all nonprofits are bad, but we have to make sure that we're eliminating the bad ones. I'm not a huge believer in taxpayer dollars going to nonprofits or NGOs, but I also know that it has to happen. So, for instance, the best world is mental health and homeless. The nonprofit organizations, as long as they're set up correctly and as long as they're truly there for the benefit of helping people, are ideal for drug and alcohol treatment and mental health care. And it's better than a government entity. Government entities are completely full of bureaucracy that doesn't really help the bottom line. And I do believe that the private sector can do things better. But the money that we do give to them, which it will happen, and I for those of you on here probably heard me talk, and Denise gets mad at me a lot by saying that I can't use these generalities, but I say all the time that the day I take over, all the money going to NGOs and nonprofits state money is going to stop. And while that may be true, it's all going to stop, and then we're going to very, very quickly identify the ones that are actually making a difference. They'll all get their money back. And then the ones that don't come forward and say, hey, we need that money to continue to help all these people, if you're not coming forward doing that, you're the one stealing all the money, and then we're just going to send you to prison. So it's going to be a very, very rip the Band-Aid off attempt to rein in the waste, the fraud, and the abuse, while at the same time highlighting the nonprofits that are actually helping, and then helping them more, and then even increasing their media reach or their reach to other people that want to give to that organization so they can help. So I think that done correctly, it's going to be amazing how it's supposed to work. But I think that over time, and because of a lack of oversight of where state money is going, it's just become a hotbed for embezzlement and abuse.
So, obviously, speaking on behalf of the nonprofit sector, we would argue that those things happen, and nobody wants bad actors out of the system more than we do, because of course that puts our reputations at risk. We probably would disagree on how often that happens, but I think our question, if you I know we shared our policy agenda with your campaign team. Some of the things that we are most often advocating for at a state level are things like timely payment. If the government makes a contract with a nonprofit, one of the challenges we often have is, there's an agreement that we're going to do this particular function for this amount of of money, and then we're expected to act immediately. And often nonprofits don't have those assets in hand, so there's no big reserve to draw on. So we're taking out debt, or we're floating, borrowing from our own other projects. And so we've been trying for many years now to create a really strong regulatory system whereby those dollars go out the door as agreed in a timely fashion. Another big one would be the fact that to this date there's a law called the Prompt Payment Act, which actually exempts nonprofits of certain size from that, so that there's a punishment if the government doesn't pay a for-profit contractor, but not necessarily so if it doesn't pay a nonprofit contractor. All these things that we would consider really unequal if you're asking nonprofits to serve some public function. And I'm curious what your take on those would be, and whether you would support some of those kinds of reforms with how the state interacts with nonprofits.
Oh, absolutely. So let me be very, very clear for everybody that's on here watching. Nonprofits are not the problem. It's government that is the problem. And it is government that is causing all of the issues that we see. Bad actors are going to be bad actors. There's always going to be bad actors. It's up to the government to watch where their money is going, to make sure those bad actors are removed. Because the bottom line is this: you may have the greatest nonprofit in the world, but when everybody hears about the nonprofits that are stealing money, abusing money, and wasting it, that puts a bad mark on your name, and people are going to tend to not want to give money to the legitimate nonprofits because they just believe that they're all fraudulent. And I firmly believe the government is at fault. So I am at the top level of executive government in Riverside County. That's the sheriff is the top executive officer in my county. And it is absolutely embarrassing to me when my vendors, who we are contracting for services through, whether it's IT or whatever it is, food for inmates, I don't care what it is, and they call me and say that they haven't been paid in 8 months. Government is an absolute failure right now at all levels. And it's government that has to be fixed. If we are trying to help people and you are doing your absolute best with your nonprofit, and I'm just going to throw out homeless because it's easy. You are doing the absolute best you can to help the homeless. And the money that you are supposed to be getting to help them, you don't get for a year. It's like, what is that? You can't operate under those types of circumstances. And it is government that is failing. If government absolutely has to run like a non-government agency, where the people that are doing absolutely nothing or causing these problems, they have to be fired. They have get rid of them and put somebody in that place. But the issue with government, and I'll tell you, as a deputy, as the leader of our department, as the bad deputies ruin the entire profession, and we have to do everything we can to get rid of them. But making it so hard to get rid of a bad deputy is harming the entire profession. No, and it's absolutely no different in government. If you have someone in your profession that is absolutely failing your organization and your nonprofit and your ability to deliver, you get rid of them. You don't pay them anymore. You don't keep them on board, but yet government does that routinely. And it all has to change. So my entire opinion of doing this, it's not Californians that are the problem. It's California state government that is the problem. And we have to fix government from the inside out, not the Band-Aid is the nonprofits. That's the result. That is that's what we see from absolute bad policies. We have to fix the root cause of all of that to make sure that the nonprofits can even exist and get the money that we want them to use to help the people that government shouldn't be helping.
So one of the things, and you've referenced this a bit about, how the workforce, is engaged in this. So in California, we have nearly 1.5 million people that work for a nonprofit. That's their primary day job. That said, the majority of the nonprofit sector is all volunteer. There are no staff in nearly 70% of nonprofits in California, just volunteer associations. But for those that are, and they're often the larger entities that are more recognized, they could be in healthcare or education or larger institutions, but a lot of human service work as well. The challenge we often have is that nonprofits have this sort of race to the bottom challenge when seeking funding. And that's true of private funding, public funding, you name it. And oftentimes you'll have overworked, underpaid nonprofit employees trying to do some good in their community. And in some cases, it is the funding entity, in the case of government or a philanthropic entity, that actually requires that, or at least encourages and incentivizes that. And I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on how we would make a more sustainable nonprofit workforce, given your comment a moment ago that obviously nonprofits do a lot of good in certain areas, they're key. How do we ensure in a state that is clearly got an affordability crisis, and you've certainly spoken many times about that piece of the, what could we do to strengthen that and make it more sustainable to actually have a career in a nonprofit and do that work for your chosen work?
Yeah. So the bottom line is nonprofits are good. Nonprofits they were designed for a special purpose, and they were all good purposes. And we have to realize that that's what the most of them are. Not a lot of nonprofits get government money. Some of them do. There are grants out there, but not a lot of them get government money. And my belief is that's how it should be. There should be that's how we give back as humans, as Americans, is you support the causes that you believe in, you support it with your money, and then that's why you get tax benefits, because you're actually helping to where the government doesn't have to. So I'm a firm believer in nonprofits, and I'm telling you, there's at least a dozen that I give to on a regular basis, yearly basis, so I can lower what the state takes of my income. And I think that's an absolute fantastic role for nonprofits, idea for nonprofits, and that's how we make society better. So it's only the government money going to those things that matter. But I will tell you that the problem for nonprofits, that for employees, is how do you pay your employees and allow them to live in California? Because it's nearly impossible. So it's great for volunteers if you can get enough volunteers to run your organization, but paying someone to actually run the organization, make it successful, and help the people that you're supposed to be helping or the causes you're supposed to help, you can't do it in California without substantial increases in income and the money that you pay out, because you can't live in California. The cost of living in California absolutely must be reduced, so everything else works. It's not about raising income, it's raising how much you have to spend, whether it's in taxes or whether it's in the cost of gas or the cost of food or even services and goods that we buy from a store. Everything is increased in California because of bad government policy. So it's the government policy in that realm, making sure that we're lowering the cost of living, lowering the cost of government in general, so that nonprofits and the people that are working for nonprofits can actually thrive and survive.
So I appreciate that. You mentioned a moment ago the amount of nonprofits that receive government funding, and it just for what it's worth, right? If you take the entire sector, about half of all nonprofit revenue is actually earned revenue, and then about a third these days is some kind of public funding, not always state, but some kind, and the remainder is philanthropy and the gifts that you mentioned. You're part of giving
Right.
as well. For those pieces of the work that, that 35% that is government funded, are there examples that I mean, I've certainly heard some of the criticisms of places you see it not working, but are there examples in your work that you can share about, this is an example of how government and nonprofit partnerships can really work well? Or this is sort of a model that you would look to if you were governor to support a positive model of how that can be done?
Oh, absolutely. We give and it ranges on the years depending on how much we give or their asks or their needs, their specific needs. But there's probably between 30, and then, well, there's way more than 30, probably between 50 and 100 every single year, nonprofits that we give somewhere around $500,000 to. And all of them are fantastic. If they weren't fantastic, we would not be giving them money. And this particular money that I'm talking about, it's all drug seizure money that we're seizing from criminals, drug dealers, drug traffickers, and then we're giving it to nonprofits that support our youth, whether in gang or drug awareness or deterrence or disenfranchised youth, and it's all to help our kids. So we absolutely 100% believe in all of those. We believe in their ability to reach kids that government can't necessarily reach. These nonprofits are engaged in purposeful relationships with the kids that they're trying to reach. And I'm only using that because that's typically what we concentrate in on the money that I give away. So when you take that relationship aspect and that's what you're supporting and that's what you're building on, and that's what the organization actually does, then those are the ones that are a success. They have proven success. I will say that I give the most money that I could possibly give to, my own money, to it's split between Wounded Warriors and Tunnels to Towers. Tunnel to Towers helps law enforcement and military. 95% goes directly to the people that they're that they are helping, and it is outward and open, and you can see where my money is going, and it's paying off homes for people that lose the ability to live in a home because of their service to our country or their service to law enforcement, public safety, fire, and law enforcement. So when you have those organizations that are shining examples of how you do things right, that's what everyone should be emulating. That's what you should be looking for to support. And from government purposes, and that's what I have to talk about because it's only where the government money is going, we have to absolutely make sure that the entities that are getting that money are actually doing what they're purporting that they're doing, and they're having a success at it.
I appreciate those examples of some of that direct aid and service work that nonprofits can do with government. I'm curious if I can sort of corner you here into a first 100 days question. If there was one thing about nonprofits and the relationship with state government in the 2027 and you're the governor, what would that be? What would that number one priority be for you to tackle with having to do with the nonprofit sector in California? Any part of it?
I mean, ideally, I want government out of nonprofits. I don't want, and when I say that, I want their fingers out of nonprofits. I want their control out of nonprofits. Nonprofits are specifically designed as a private entity, private organization to help a group or individuals that they've designated themselves to be helping. And I already stated the reasons. It was the person who, and I have no idea who it was, the person who came up with the very first fundraiser, or I'm not fundraiser, nonprofit, was an absolute genius. I mean, that's how society should operate. And if government is interfering in the success of nonprofits, it should be removed. If government is hindering the ability of nonprofits, whether it's from being paid or that constant knowing that you're going to get your money on the first of every month instead of every several months, all of that has to be removed. The relationship has to be fixed, not on the nonprofit side, it's on the government side. I don't believe that the nonprofits are causing the problem. It's government that is causing the problem, and we have to work to eliminate those issues so nonprofits can actually thrive like they were designed to thrive.
Right. Well, I think many of your nonprofit constituents would agree with that. We do struggle with those issues. Let me ask on areas of interest. You obviously have some strong background in engaging with nonprofits, both from the department level, but also personally. Are there particular types of work? You mentioned some of the direct aid to the two organizations you personally support, some of the youth work that the department supports. Let me ask you two sides of a question. One is, are there areas that you see the nonprofit sector could be more helpful, useful? There should be stronger partnerships with government, or might there be areas where you feel like that's just not an appropriate partnership between government and nonprofit? Types of work.
Yeah, I will say that my nonprofits that I support are based on my life and my work. So I support, Denise and I support Tunnel to Towers, Wounded Warriors. We support Olive Crest, which is, it's supporting kids and young girls and boys too, and young families that are victimized with either homelessness or drugs or abuse or things like that. Organizations that are fighting human trafficking, the things that, young kids. I'm a firm believer. And I guess it was the way I was raised. I want to help women and children. I mean, that's my life. That I was raised that way. So that's where my money goes. And we believe that that's where our money should go. So those types of things are personally influenced from me. I'll give you a great example of, Denise had to massively go through a very, very long and prolonged struggle with cancer. And the research that we have done into cancer, we will never give money to cancer research because we know it has nothing to do with helping the people with cancer. All of those organizations, to me personally, are a complete fraud. That's the administrative costs and the money going to I don't want to get into that, but I'll never give to a cancer research facility or anything because we know that the money is not being used wisely. So personally, as the governor, it has to be, if we're going to engage in helping people, it has to be the benefit for all, or the benefit for the majority, or something that is absolutely helping society. I'll make enemies here, but I'll make enemies and cause maybe other people to I hopefully you see the difference and you don't just get emotionally attached and go off the rails. But I don't believe, or the money that's, for instance, that's going to pro-choice organizations, government money, why are we not making sure that the same amount of government money goes to pro-family organizations and pro-birth organizations? Because their argument is that they can't afford the babies, or a bad time in life, or the whatever argument they have. But why aren't we trying to eliminate that aspect then, instead of just saying, let's just stop them from being pregnant? How about let's help them be successful parents? And so that's like a fine line of, you can't pick one side of government and go toward a political ideology, but you're not going to help the other side also. That's where government is failing. And I'm not saying that either one is right, but if you're going to do one, you have to do both. And in the end, we should be supporting organizations that are supporting the betterment of Californians, not political ideologies.
Well, it's certainly, every policymaker, obviously expresses their values through some of those decisions around where funding goes and what they would support. I know we're getting to the end of our time here, so I want to give you an opportunity for sort of a last word to the folks watching this, most of whom work with, volunteer for, or have nonprofits very central in their lives and work. Anything that folks should know about you as they head into the primaries here?
Yeah, I think I'm hoping, and what we're seeing across California is Californians are tired of being misled. We're tired of being misgoverned by career politicians. And unfortunately for me, I'm being labeled by both as this horrific right wing Trumper, MAGA, whatever you want to call me. But the reality is, I'm only doing this for Californians. I couldn't care less about political ideology. Just because I'm registered as a Republican means absolutely nothing about how I govern. And the proof of that is my 33 years in law enforcement, 8 as being the sheriff. Never in my life have I gone to help someone, asked who you voted for, or what your personal preferences are, or anything like that. It's just about solving problems, fixing emergencies, and making people's lives better. And that's why I'm doing this. If we continue down this path of political identity, of identity politics, we're going to lose California. We are near bankrupt. The largest economy in the world, the 4th largest economy in the world, the greatest state in the world, in the country, and we are on the verge of losing our state. It makes absolutely no sense. It's just horrific bad policy, and we have to start making a decision to pick people who are going to put politics aside, political aspirations aside, personal aspirations aside, and actually doing something for the betterment of Californians. And that's all I'm offering. There's no benefit for me to go into this position. It's going to be a headache for me and my family, but I know that I'm going to make my family and all of your families better, giving a better opportunity to thrive in California if we make a correction change in the way our political direction is going. We have to get it back to the middle. We've gone way too far in one direction, and we've got to get back to where we care about Californians instead of half of California or a third of California in special interests. I know firsthand that our state government and its organization and how it operates in Sacramento, it is absolutely broken, and it is harming my ability to be a law enforcement officer. It's harming my ability to be a parent and a grandparent, and it's harming your ability, having a wonderful organization, to actually thrive in your environment because of bad public policy. And it just has to change.
All right. Well, thank you, Sheriff Chad Bianco, candidate for Governor of California. We appreciate you taking the time to share some of your thoughts here with the nonprofit community. So thank you for this morning's conversation.
Very good. Thank you.
And for those of you watching, like we said, this will be shared and it has been recorded. So you are welcome to share that with folks that want to hear more about Mr. Bianco's candidacy or others, we will be back with you in the coming weeks, having these conversations, 30 minutes or so, with each of the candidates who accept our invitation. So with that, I will say thank you. Thank you for your work in the nonprofit sector and for engaging in some of the important choices we all have to make as Californians. We will see you again soon. Thank you so much.